So first things first, Koen, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
It's
And
very good to
you?
hear. Yeah, no, I'm great. Yeah, I'm very happy compared to last year that everything is going again and we can do our jobs
Oh yeah,
normally.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for this new year. But before we get into everything that the band has been up to and the upcoming debut album, I would like to jump back to the beginning a little bit. Now, for you personally, what was the catalyst to get you started into music? Was it something vocally? Was it just music in general? What was it?
Ever since I was a kid, I used to play like piano in the house. My parents put me on piano lessons when I
Mm,
was quite young. But grew up with family that were all classically schooled,
okay.
so uh, like playing from sheet music, and this is something that for some reason doesn't work with me. Uh, So I kind of lost the interest actually, and I started smoking a little bit too much weed. So up to my 18th, I think I didn't play, and I didn't really like surround myself with
Mm,
people uh, that were into music. Um, Up until the moment that I was like for my studies doing an internship at what is it, like a youth center to support like a talent development program, like to support the kids in
sure.
this youth center uh, to work on their stage performance. And that's where like, I don't know, a switch flipped and I realized like, I don't want to like support these kids. I want to be on stage myself and I want to develop my musical self. Um, so that's kind of where I guess, where the spark was. And quite soon after that, I quit my studies
Okay.
and went back to my hometown and kind of decided that I only wanted to do things that gave me energy. So I started working in the cultural scene in Maastricht, next to my bar job, and quite soon started organizing open mics and jam sessions and concert booking other artists in different bars and playing myself with a few people every Wednesday in a local bar. Um, and so on. I like, yeah, got some more um, experience on stage and obviously developed myself in the meantime as a songwriter, testing some songs I wrote out on stage.
Sure.
And then at one point, yeah, I tried some different bands with original music like everybody does in the beginning, kind of figuring out uh, what they like. And at one point, there was this moment that I was like, okay, uh, I'm gonna want to start a serious band. So, uh, yeah, I started looking for people like people that I was playing at that time in this bar with. Uh, that then grew to like a group of a bunch of other people, and that was the start of Solomon. So,
Fair enough. There's just a couple of interesting things in there, I think. You starting as a songwriter. Now, even the idea of putting thoughts onto paper and kind of singing them out loud, that kind of stuff. What did that do for you? What could you put in those songs that are something? Yeah, what did you get out of it? Let's put it that way.
well, I wrote down. I guess it's how a lot of people start with writing down a lot of frustrations, and at that time. Well, maybe I was a difficult teenager, I don't know, but it started off with writing down rhymes and raps to out
Okay.
my frustration on my mom. Like, yeah, so I would write her like little, little poems. You know,
Mm,
every time we had a fight, I would write my stuff down and I would give her the poem. Uh, so I guess it started all with like outing like my frustration or like let's say more negative side,
right.
which I think is still there. And I guess it's a way to stay happy in daily life for me. So like I think the songs that we write are quite melancholic, and that's a side I think all of us in the band uh, carry with them. Um, and yeah, if you can express that melancholic side in music, I think it makes you maybe more happy in daily life. I think that's kind of the remedy or something.
No, but that's an interesting thought because especially, well, obviously you're still young when you're writing those poems, and then you develop that into eventually what
Yeah,
would become songs and stuff. And you mentioned those
yeah.
open mic nights, and then kind of those first initial times going up on stage and kind of expressing these ideas of feelings to a bunch of people you don't know. What was that
Mhm.
like?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I never really struggled
Okay.
with it. Like I think it's something that was natural in a way, but uh, it did help that if you perform a very emotional song in front of a bunch of people, that you can see that it touches them.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, like I think this response is very important. Like if this like response was never there, then I'd also don't know if I would have the energy uh yeah, to try to chase a musical career in that sense. You know?
Right. Well, sorry to interrupt, but what was that spark then? Because you mentioned there came a point where you thought, okay, and I want to start a serious band, what eventually would become Solomon. So what was that kind of switch that went off? What was it that you thought, okay, I'm going to try and make this my living?
Um, I don't know. I've always had this unexplainable drive that that's something that I should be doing. Um, and I still sometimes ask myself like, why? Like, where does it come from? You know, like, and I almost try to think, does it come from me playing piano when I was young and then hearing from my like siblings that what I was doing wasn't good enough, and I'm
Mm.
trying to prove that it is good enough still or something, you know? Yeah, yeah. I, I don't know. Like, it's just something that says like this is something I should be doing, and like I think there were a few moments or like that were very determined uh, to pursue a musical career. And it's just like this one song, like the first song that I really liked that I wrote and I performed it in front of I think 10 people in this bar, you know, no microphone, nothing. Uh, and that one person started crying because they were so touched by it. I think like those moments were definitely very important. Uh, but also like the fact that like learning that like making music with people and creating is actually so much fun. You know? Not
Well,
always, but most of the time it's fun.
I've heard it described as a beautiful struggle at times.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, because in the end, it's five people in a room that all have a taste and opinions and have different backgrounds and want to put like their own magic in there. Um, and yeah, at the end, you need to reach a final product that everybody is happy with, um, which is at the same time a product that you would not ever have written on your own, and that's a nice thing about it,
Sure.
you know, that you um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
What was this? Because then the band starts, and then where you are from where the band started to where you are now. How do you see that development? Because as you mentioned, you're five people, very different backgrounds. You have somebody from Germany. You have so you just told me before we turned on the camera that you speak mostly English within the band.
Yeah.
Um, how is that dynamic between the five of you evolved, and how have you kind of found that identity, that musical identity that kind of is apparent on the debut album, I think.
I mean, I think this musical identity is something that's always in, like, it's always evolving,
Yeah.
right? So, I really see this album as like just it's this moment in time, and
Okay.
this is what we make, and I have no idea where we will what we will evolve into um, in the future. But I think like yeah, I mean, the people in our band have different backgrounds in the sense that our bass player is from a jazz background, jazz
Hmm.
conservatory, uh, like our guitarist as well. Um, Ido, our key player, that I also like co-produced the album with, um, has a contemporary composition background. Then our drummer is more like a rock, funk background. I'm more like the songwriter with the guitar background. So and those are very, I think, different corners of the music world. Um, and I think like those combined kind of make the Solomon sound.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I think over time, because we once started uh, with a different group of musicians, right? We like in
Okay.
the very beginning, we had a different guitarist and a different bass player, and over
Okay.
time, you like a group kind of evolves, and you figure out that maybe you want everybody individually wants something else in their future, or
Mm.
which is all fine. Um, but over time, I think Ido and I have the loudest voice or opinion about things. Are also like more like the writers
Mm.
of the music in Solomon. And then obviously everybody has their like
Sure.
different like thing, makes up their own parts, and but yeah, I think that's kind of how it evolved over time.
No, because I think the dynamics come out really well musically, but I'll get to that in a little bit. First, before we start delving into the album, it's usually I don't start with the album title, but I just find it interesting to the title in terms of a debut album, the name.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from here. When did that title pop into your head or into the band's head?
Um, it's like we came up with the name when we were in France. Like we try to every year in summer take like a week or two to focus on new music. And this was like in France, we were like in a little chateau in the middle of nowhere, trying to like write this album, and like Ido came up with uh, the name. I don't know where he got it from. But what we all liked so much about it is that at first sight it looks like something quite pessimistic, right? But actually, uh, there's like a double meaning, and it kind of depends on how you look at it, uh, because like it's all downhill from here. Like if you're on a bike, you know, quite quite smooth sailing,
You can coast.
Um, uh, and I think this duality is also something that fits really to the album and to the message behind the lyrics and so on. Because in the end, it's a lot of our songs are about like internal conflict.
Hmm. But what
So
I found interesting, because you mentioned the word melancholy earlier as well, and then obviously that's in the music, but there's
mhm.
always that other side of it of kind of For instance, let's take a song like Polly. I think the build-up is really cool, but it also, for some reason, it felt kind of euphoric to me as well as it builds towards that
Hmm.
later part of the song. So there's also always that counterbalance, that hope at the end of the tunnel. How important is that for you guys to balance those two worlds?
Yeah, no, I think yeah, that is very important, you know. Like I do think that yeah, that's like what we try with the album is that at the end of it, you're like, ah, okay, you know, there's hope. You know, you went through this like whirlpool or what is it like storm of different like emotions and sometimes quite heavy and dark. Uh, Uh, but yeah, I think that like yeah, it's that duality, the black and white. You know, like I think you cannot always be happy and not always be sad. You
Sure.
know, it's like it goes like this. So that's really something uh, that we try to put in into the music, and I'm happy to hear that's also something you hear. You know. So,
Oh no, definitely, and then that's what I wanted to get at a little bit as well. I think what, and then this is just from listening to this album. But what I think you guys do really well is building tension in a way. And the buildup of songs. And you mentioned earlier yourself and Ido are kind of the co-producers, but then you also had some help from Tim Debney in the mixing and Christopher Elms in producing. So
yeah, 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 yeah.
how much of because it sounds like a very much a collective effort. How much of the dynamics and kind of the way songs eventually turned out was in the studio as opposed to kind of the initial ideas that you guys had?
I think like we had a quite extensive like demo period
Okay.
where like it was just us writing and arranging the music, uh, and yeah, the whole idea was to like with those songs that were a little bit more than 10 songs. I think we had like 14 songs that we went into the studio with. Um, but most of those arrangements were already there.
Okay.
Uh, but obviously Chris's support or like influence kind of brought it to that next level.
Hmm.
Uh, um, but yeah, no, and that's also something I'm actually quite proud of. You know that it's that we had a lot of yeah input or like into those arrangements in the way the songs are structured. Um, yeah, so like I'm like super proud of the end result.
No, I thought it was really cool, and I mentioned Polly before, but I like the way the guitar tone is, and that there's so many interesting things that you can hear in it, and as it builds up to in my opinion, then this euphoric kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Um, so I might as well ask about that song now. What was the origin of that song, Polly?
Probably was the one of the what do you mean with origin? Sorry, like
Kind of what the initial idea was, or the initial thought, or maybe it was just a guitar riff, maybe it was just a tone, something that started off the whole song.
started off with the synth
Okay.
beat. I think recently had a new synthesizer, and I think one of the first like thingies he made on it was that the thing, and yeah, and then we I think in a rehearsal room we just started vibing a bit and like playing those light guitar arpeggio thingies. Uh, and for the longest time, I think up to a few weeks before we actually went into the studio, we only had 1 minute of this song. You know, it was just the
Okay.
intro and the first chorus, and then this little like hook or melody line on guitar. And yeah, we couldn't figure out where this song had to go, and like there was something that had to be there, but like we couldn't figure it out. And then at one point, uh, yeah, like I came up with this bridge uh, melody, and that made so much sense to us that
Mm.
like then it was kind of smooth sailing. Then we just figured it out, you know. And sometimes you have to wait for a long time before, you know, the switch flips, you know? Like.
And then obviously, what I suppose ties all the songs together. You do have, I think, a cohesive sound, but at the same time, what ties everything together is your voice. So, and then maybe this is difficult to say about yourself, but how do you approach your own voice? How do you listen to it, especially as co-producer, having to listen to your own voice and your delivery and all that stuff, and obviously you mean the words that you sing. So, what is your relationship with your vocals and how you sing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have an issue like you hear from some people, right? I can't hear my own voice or something, right? I mean, like, um, you know, I'm a singer. It's like I have to be able to listen to my voice, right?
Sure.
Um, yeah, like I don't know. I find it very nice to be part of the vocal like mixing and editing, because yeah, yeah, I don't know. I like my experience when somebody like it. I don't know. I just think that that I know how it should sound. You know, like I
Mm,
have an opinion about it. But Chris, um, yeah, he definitely nailed it. If you ask me, you know, like. Uh, but I do think it's a challenge, and we were very aware in the whole like mixing process. It's a challenge that you don't polish up your
mm,
voice too much, you know. And I think this is still, or like polish up as in um, like take out the edgy parts or the
sure.
dirty parts, or maybe you know. This is something a lot of people tend to do, and then put a lot of like auto tune on it. You know, like this is something that, anyways, doesn't work with my voice because like I have this timbre in there. If you put auto tune on it, you know, like you're gonna hear that. So I'm happy that we didn't use any of that. But um, yeah, I think it's very important to have somebody there as well
Mm,
that uh, that focuses on not making it too perfect. You know, if
sure.
you know what I mean. Like,
No, no,
yeah.
no, definitely. You want to have those raw edges because that's one of my gripes, if you will, with a lot of modern music is that it's just too well produced in a way. It's too
Hmm.
clean, and you don't feel the danger in a way. But
Yeah.
but, but for the band then, because is there this element of keeping those raw edges? Is that I was gonna say, is that almost inevitable with the type of music that you make because it is very emotional? That to me, it's somewhat cinematic as well. There's a lot of atmosphere in it, and I think if you make it too clean, then it loses its strength.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. So like we were really looking for a balance between it being yeah, you know, like clean or high quality and edgy.
Hmm.
Uh, and yeah, we definitely made some like conscious decision because there's in a mixing process you can go so many ways, right? Like,
Sure, sure,
uh, and we also definitely in the beginning had a few uh, mixes that were just too good, you know, too clean, too. Um, but yeah, like yeah, if you go too dirty, uh, then it can also lose a bit of punch, you know. So yeah, we're like that was really a whole yeah, like trying to discover what would work best. And also, I mean, it's our first album. We did do a EP before this during the whole Corona
the All These Lights
period.
EP, right?
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, Endless it's called, but yeah, All These Lights is on there.
Oh,
Endless,
okay.
Brighter Day, the Way of the World, uh, which was yeah recorded locally in a small studio with a friend, um, and obviously us being like less experienced as we're now now are or like you know so um, yeah as we talked about earlier is like this sound and yeah, how you imagine the sound to be is something that's constantly in development, and also, it's just yeah.
Hmm.
I guess it's with everything in life, actually.
Yeah, it changes
Yeah,
inevitable, I think.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
kind of final question about the album is because we spoke a little bit about the lyrics and kind of the you as a songwriter. Is there one line or maybe a couple of lines that you're specifically proud of or are really happy with how it turned out, or kind of that are certain sentences that are really close to you?
Oh, damn. Um, Close to me personally, I would say the song "The Actor."
Okay.
Um, it's a song that's quite personal, and I also I'm proud of how the lyric of Lifeline, and especially how the song Lifeline, uh, because that was kind of the spark to write an album. It was we got asked to play to write a song in isolation during one of the lockdowns. Uh, from home, like without seeing each other, and that was kind of like the first song that we started working on, and then eventually we ended up with an album. But a specific line, uh, there's no one specific line that comes to mind right now.
No, well,
But
let's. Oh, sorry.
no, 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 go ahead.
No, no, no. Let's take the actor then, because you mentioned that one. Which it's a very interesting song. Again, it's really well built up. I think where from where it starts to where it ends in a way. Um,
Thanks.
and then the thing about the actor, and I don't know if this is specifically what the song is about, but a lot of artists I've spoken to, they struggle with imposter syndrome and kind of at times feeling like they wear a mask or whatever. Is that kind of where that song comes from?
Yeah, yeah, kind of like um, yeah. So what we kind of try to do, or what is like, it's also the reason why we make this melancholic music, is I believe that if you express all these feelings and struggles, that hopefully somebody else would listen to it and recognize it, and instead of it making them feel like down or depressed, it actually comforts them.
Mm.
And like the actor, the song itself, it's really about you need to um, it's really about like it's very personal because it's about me that brings this band together. You have a dream, but it's something that you have to convince others of. Like you have
Sure.
this belief that that your music could move people, but um, or this hopeful message, right? But actually, inside, you're quite frightened and you doubt yourself, But once you start doubting yourself, and that's something, and you'll show that to others, then no way somebody else is gonna be
Sure.
motivated or convinced, So it's that kind of struggle. It's like, okay, when do I open up about my insecurities and whatsoever? And do I say, yeah, let's go for it, whereas actually you feel super frightened? Or when do you open up and say, like, I'm actually super frightened? Uh,
Mm.
so it's that. And I think, it's not necessarily about um, the relationship to the music, but
Okay.
this I think can be multi-interpretable.
No, but
Uh,
as you mentioned earlier, it's kind of that internal struggle within yourself, I
yeah,
suppose.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, a final question then, because you mentioned kind of trying to convince people of your vision of what this band could be. So, you started, I believe, around 2018, and then you were doing well, and then we get a global pandemic, and things are strange for a couple of years, but you survived that, and now you're still on the up and up. So, what is this vision that you have of this band, and where does the ambition lie?
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just like what we talked about earlier. Sometimes I don't know why I'm doing it. It's just because like there's this you have this feeling, you know. It's like you like this is something you need to do. Um, like I would like for me, it's really more about challenging yourself, learning new things, you know, trying to develop uh, uh, your sound, you know, trying to like chase opportunities and yeah, most of all, just having this feeling that you try to or like the best you can to chase this unexplainable feeling.
Sure.
You know, because like I've like in my past, I've made decisions or did things against this like intuition or gut feeling. And the last thing I want is that I don't know, when you're old, you know, you're like, oh, I wish I had tried that, you know, and then you feel miserable, you know. So it's not really about accomplishing anything. In a way, obviously, we'd like to find people that
Sure.
appreciate our music and can do something with it. But it's more about yeah, about having tried it or chased it.
I think that's a very healthy attitude as well. Koen, may I thank you for your time?
Yeah, thank you, man. Really nice.